The Avengers are one of the most famous, if not the most famous, superhero team out there, and they have changed how superhero movies are made now. And today we will be talking about the first Thor movie, Captain America, and the first Avengers movie as we continue our journey through the MCU. Today, first we'll start with Thor. The first Thor. This was my first time watching the movie. I have not seen this one or the second one. My only real introduction other than Avengers to Thor was Ragnarok. We'll start here, as always, with the good, the bad, the ugly. Start with the good. Origin story was very, very efficient. I love that. We got to know who Thor and Loki were really quickly. Good pacing in the beginning. So we have a attachment right to those immediate first main characters, the brothers, the sons of Odin. As we go in thinking later on in the movie, we do find out Loki is not his son. We'll get into that a little bit later. My second good is, as always, Natalie Portman. Being a huge Star Wars fan, I loved her in the prequels. I love her in just about everything she's in. Natalie Portman always does great work. Loki doing Loki things is always good. The god of mischief, up to no good, up to his schemes, as always, shenanigans, as some would say. We did get our first little look at Hawkeye, which was kind of cool. We knew we were getting close to the Avengers, so we kind of had to plant those seeds as to who is in the Avengers, who we're going to be seeing in that first movie. And the last good of this was the first Infinity Stone appears. It is what Thor and all of them are after the protection of, because Asgard, that is their duty to protect the Infinity Stone from the ice giants. That is who our first big villain of the movie is the frost giants. We will get into them in a little bit here. They fall into a whole nother category for me. They do not fall into the good by any means. We'll jump into the bad. Why Thor so dumb? Thor be dumb in most of this movie. As someone who comes from this advanced world, you're supposed to be godlike, and you are dumber than a bag of rocks, and it doesn't make sense to me. I don't expect Thor to be a genius by any means, or even just a great mind, but he is just oblivious to the most common things you would see in any world. The Odin sleep, that kind of just, that I didn't really like that very much. Was that just like depression sleep? Was that like a Padme situation where he just died because he was sad and heartbroken? If you can give me a little bit more detail on that, let me know in the comments. I would love a little more lore on that, because it didn't make much sense to me. Odin went to sleep, so you just call it something called Odin sleep. Could have just said he went to bed. That to me, that's all I gathered from it. Heimdall also just listening to everyone, not really loyal to Odin or Thor. He's just kind of, I guess, loyal to everyone. People tell him what to do and he just does it. From what I remember later on in the other movies, that was not him. That just is what I gathered the vibe from Heimdall. He would just open the Bifrost for anybody that wants it. And then the last bad for this movie as well, for me, Loki just dipped at the end, jumped into the abyss when Odin made this whole big deal about it, and Loki's just gonna jump off and off himself. All for that to mean nothing in the end of all of it, which we'll get to in the end, in some other stuff with Captain America as we move forward in this. The ugly, here we are back to the Frost Giants. The Game of Thrones literally just copy pasted the Frost Giants. Why did the Frost Giant look exactly like the Night King from Game of Thrones. It was just very, for lack of a better word, it was very ugly. I did not like the look of the frost giants. They didn't seem very menacing. They just seemed like normal ice people. And I know from the God of War games, that's how I knew before watching this for the first time, that Loki was half frost giant, half human, or whatever his mother was. It could have looked better in my opinion. Some things I didn't notice that I did kind of catch was looked like there was some Wakandan tech at Asgard that they were keeping where they had the Infinity Stone originally kept. So that was kind of cool. There was some eyeball looking thing, which I don't know if that was maybe referencing Doctor Strange for later on in the MCU. But it definitely kind of looked like the thing he keeps the time stone in, so that was very interesting. My overall grade for this movie is a 2.5 out of 5. Yeah, it sounds like I had a lot of things I liked. I did not like this movie. So, really out of 10, which is what we've been doing it, is I'd say a 5 out of 10 at that point. I don't know why I wrote 2.5 out of 5 that day. That was just me being dumb. 5 out of 10. Probably not the worst movie so far, because if I remember correctly, we gave a 5 as well. But definitely at the bottom of my list. After that, we're on to Captain America. The base of our lore for Captain America, which most people going in knew who it was, knew who he is as a hero, as a person. Steve Rogers, just the overall good guy, baby face, as some would say in wrestling terms, just overall, you know what I mean, just followed the rules. He was one of those guys. Starting off with the World War II vibe was excellent. We immediately learn about him and Bucky, and Steve really wants to go fight the Nazis, and he's just a scrawny little guy. And I remember the first time I watched it, I 100% could understand it. I was always that small, scrawny guy growing up. No one ever took me seriously. Steve was dealing with the same stuff. He finally gets pulled in after multiple attempts to join the army. He gets in and he makes that leap of faith on the grenade that really just shows who he is as a person, as they're trying to decide who do we give this super serum to. We want to make sure it's somebody that can hold the mantle and be the face of America, all while you of course have the army saying, no, we want our biggest, baddest fighter to have it. He'll defeat anyone, but he would never save anyone. And that's where Steve shined, and that's what I loved about just that story, was he got it because of who he was, not how big he was. No one believed he would survive it. He does. He makes it through the whole process. They're trying to shut it off. He's telling them no. And that was a really, really cool scene as well, was them injecting him with the super serum. Then our next good was the suit reveal and the shield, which was really awesome. I always love a good suit reveal, or, you know what I mean, outfit reveal, as there are many going through the MCUs, or the MCU movies. We have many different outfits and uniforms that we're going to see, and a lot of them are just really cool, and it's nice to see some things change and show a little bit of the personality of the hero. And then the last good for me was the fact that there was one person he couldn't save, and it absolutely kills him. Steve Rogers, as a person in Captain America, wants to save everybody. There's no reason any one person should die, and it kills him that he couldn't save that one person. On to our bad from the movie. Some of the vehicles just look really way too advanced for World War II. So that, to me, it was a little hard to believe that those were Nazi vehicles. Not the submarine was the big one for me. That looked like it was out of like 2027, 2020, you know what I mean, our time now, which was a little weird. Red Skull was a bit cliche as well. Felt like he was just your typical villain. Way too many of the tropes that you see in out of the bad guy in just about every movie. And then Cap, just when he's getting onto that train for that fight, and when he's going taking out all the Nazis on the train, that was a little too easy. Now, granted, that's I could suspend my belief to get through that, but it did seem a little easy. That's more, I guess, a meh thing than a bad thing. My overall score for this would be an 8 out of 10. I put it up there with Iron Man 2. Very, very good movie. I personally loved it. First time I saw it, loved it the second time I saw it. Great movie. And then on to the Avengers, our third and final movie of this episode. We finally get the group of them. We start building our core Avengers. Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Hulk. We get the whole crew. Stakes are immediately set, and we learn that Loki's on his way to Earth. Not Loki, we learn of essentially Thanos' goons, as we know from later on in the movies. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen them. Not my problem at this point. But they're basically Thanos' goons trying to plan a way to get that Infinity Stone, the Tesseract as they call it. This whole time it's been slipping my mind, but I remembered it. But yes, so the Tesseract is what everybody's fighting for here. Tony Stark's humor and how conceited he is, as always, is just very, very funny, very humorous. Love to see that kind of stuff. The Iron Man, the Iron Man Thor fight was probably just as good, if not better, than the final fight. I loved the back and forth between them, and then you have War Machine as well, kind of trying to get involved. So that was really, really cool. It went on for a good amount of time, so it wasn't just something quick. The Iron Man bracelets to call the suits was really, really cool as well. Early form of nanotech, which we will get into more towards. I believe that's in the first Spider-Man movie that he's talking about it. But we see a lot of it in Infinity War and Endgame. He talks about all of that stuff, uses it quite frequently. The end fight was great. That moment where they're all on the bridge waiting for Bruce to show up, and Bruce just comes walking up, and I want to say it was Cap, but he says, "Bruce, you might want to get angry." And of course, one of the most memorable lines of the movie, "That's my secret, I'm always angry." And that moment will never get old to me. Absolutely, as the kids would say, pure cinema. But yes, that was an excellent scene leading into that end fight. The end fight was great. Lots of action going and constantly swapping between all the different heroes, so you're not just focused on one or two of them. You're getting a lot of action and a lot of screen time for all of the heroes, which to me with the Avengers movies is huge. You can't just focus on one or two of them. The end credit scene is of course excellent. We get our first look at Thanos. We learn who the real threat of this universe is going to be. And we know that bigger things are brewing. Onto the bad here. We got multiple mentions of the energy that Tony Stark's Stark Tower is using, but doesn't think for 2/3 of the movie that this is the power source that they're looking for. Like, this isn't your first thought, like, oh, I've got this gigantic power source. I'm a genius. I should know that's what they're looking for. That was a little weird. It was like Tony Stark lost all of his intellect for the first 2/3 of the movie, and to me that made no sense. The bad, and it's not really a bad, it's just something I think would have been a nice throwback to the first Hulk movie. We didn't really get him using much of his abilities. Like his clap ability, for one, that I think is a really cool ability that they haven't used since the Edward Norton film. And I think they should bring that back, especially because it's something that's a big part of his arsenal. So that was like, those really the only two bads I had from this movie. And the Hulk one is more of like, that would be cool. It's not bad that they didn't add it. It just would have been a cool little addition. The Ugly, the Chitauri were just, I'm trying to give them a little bit of credit, being that it was made as far back as it was. But the Chitauri definitely could have looked a whole lot better. Overall, though, out of what I know is coming, I would give this a 7.5 out of 10 for the Avengers. I wouldn't say it's the best Avengers movie by any means, but I would say it's better than a good half of the movies that led up to it. I would definitely put it over Thor for sure. I would probably put it over a couple other ones as well. Definitely better than the Hulk for sure. But with that will be the end of this episode. Keep your eyes peeled. Next week we'll be going over the live action One Piece, and then we'll get back into the MCU rewatches in the following weeks. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the like button, share, tell all your friends, tell all your family. As always, we've shenaned once, we will shenan again.